Hi, welcome back to CS170 for the spring session. I'm going to use this lecture or video clip just to give a quick intro, couple of admin stuff and whatnot. So just bear with me a second. Okay, so thank you for everyone for providing feedback. And so based on that, I'm going to just go through a couple of admin stuff. So I know some people were talking about like how we laid out the sections and whether we can get more stuff onto the individual lecturer pages. So you can see all the different ones, right? You can see the recitations, and you have the other professors here. You have myself. And keep in mind, in case people don't know, Professor Trees actually oversees the whole CS170. So for some people, I've tried to remind people, professors, about the announcements to make sure their announcements are focused specifically to their sections. But for people who don't know, Professor Trees actually oversees all of CS170 as well as 110. So she will be making announcements also, which should be of interest to everyone. So don't ignore her announcements, okay? But here's my section here. I did actually, what did I add here? I added something here, but taking in some input from others, I did expand the coverage on my own page. So I think theoretically we should have everything here. So if you want to bookmark this or whatever and say, okay, this is where you're going to go, this is what I tried to do. So I created the link here for the announcements. If you want to see announcements, here's the piazza, so you can interact with each other in the forum. Here's the student schedule. Here's the assignments. So you'll click on these assignments. So, and just to be clear, there were some questions on that too. Some of the resources had like the textbook readings and questions to be answered. Those questions to be answered are not assignments. Those are really for your own study. I mean, you could blow it off, but really, there's a reason why we put those questions in there for your own self-study, right? Probably the questions for the exam is going to draw from those questions, right? Not exactly the same question, but somewhere along those lines. So you really should look at them. And if you have any questions on them, send it to the TA or myself, or better yet, post it to the Piazza forum, and you should be able to get an answer to that. So if it isn't clear, like, everything we put out there for you to look at, uh, not exactly the same thing, but some version of it will be on the exam. So it kind of behooves you to at least read through it, understand it, take some notes onto it that you can refer to when the exam comes around. So again, the stuff that's in the textbook that we put into those weekly resources, do read them, do try to answer those questions, but you don't have to turn them in, right? I know some people had some questions. There was some quote unquote tricky part about, like, let's say the mouse, like who introduced the mouse versus who invented the mouse are two different things. Some clarity around those type of things. I'm happy to answer those questions, or the TAs or whatever, right? So that's my suggestion on that. Here, the class material is essentially my folder, and I'll put like the PowerPoints, and I'll try to put in like some additional material. So for example, this week we're going to be covering stuff with conversions. Um, that's kind of been done to death. There's like a gazillion different videos all over the place about how to do different tricks to do conversions between the different number bases. So feel free to take a look at that. I'll try to come up with some that, hopefully makes it easier for you to refer to and think about for your conversions. But if you like some other person's way of doing it, feel free to take a look at it and see whatever works for you, okay? This is the link to the modules, which is the weekly resources, which I just talked about. Quizzes and exams here. Oh, and there was a question about quizzes. Quizzes, again, they're not meant to be hard questions, right? So hopefully you can bang them out. In some ways, they're kind of like extra credit. And again, it's really for your own benefit, your own reference. Like, you can almost look at them as like a quick snapshot of what you might see on the exam. Okay, if you miss a quiz for whatever reason, Don't worry about it. We're going to have like an opportunity at the end of the semester. We'll open up all of the quizzes for a short period of time, like a day or two or something like that. And you just bang through it and just you can catch up on all the points from the quizzes, right? So, you know, in some ways, the quizzes are almost like a slam dunk or like an extra credit, like slam dunk way of getting points, right? No pressure, easy questions, and they also help you to study for the exam. Okay, so again, don't stress out about the quizzes. You can do them now, which is probably my suggestion because it helps you to study for the exam. Or if you miss it, then you'll just get a window at the end of the semester. We'll open up a couple of days. You can go back and take any of the quizzes and max out on the points on that. Okay. The lab and office hours, someone pointed out to me that the syllabus had incorrect office hours for me, but you should refer to this, but I did get the syllabus corrected, so that's fine. Now, I put all of the videos here, and what I also did was I put in the week 1 resources reference here, right, under the, under the week 1 here. Okay, so January 18th, this is the week 1. Now, could I add more to this? Could I add like, the recitation links in here? Can I add some of the other resource links that I could potentially put in here instead of my own folder? Yes, I could. I'm just like a little bit worried about having like too much noise on this page as it is right now. There's a lot of stuff, right? The only good thing is that it's all in one place, right? So you just click on things on this one page. But if there's other things that you'd like me to try to add to this page or add under one of these subheadings here, just let me know. But hopefully this is striking a right balance between having all of the things you need in one place and not having too much noise. So this week I'll be putting stuff here under this next week here. Over time you'll see this gets pretty big. And some people, they like looking at the YouTube side of things to look at the playlists I organized under YouTube, but I've also done the playlists essentially under the media gallery. And I kind of actually like the media gallery way of presenting it a little bit better, but it's your choice. So you can click on the media gallery, or you can click on each of these videos individually, or you can go to YouTube and look at the playlist there. Your choice, your preference, okay? So that's that. And then just a last quick thing, so I can keep this video clip short. Here's where we are. We're going to cover chapter 7 and 8, and let me pull up the schedule here. Here's the student schedule, which thank you for the feedback. I think a lot of people found the student schedule view to be very helpful, which I think so too. So if you look at the student schedule view, it basically has everything, right? So I'll zoom on it. I'm not going to make it fill the whole page, but here you can see week by week. And again, you remember what I said, the color coding, right? So this is white, this is like some sort of light bluish, sky blue type of thing, and this is green. That kind of breaks it up essentially into the content that's going to be covered for each exam, okay? Except like, of course the final actually covers everything, right? And then you can see across, what are they going to cover in recitation? What am I going to cover, or topics I'm going to cover? And you have like the textbook side of things, right? You can match up to that. And notice that the textbook, we're not actually going in sequential order with the chapters, right? And then you can see like when we're going to post the availability for whatever assignments, when the assignment is going to be due. And then if you're going to turn it in late, the accept until date. Here's the quizzes. Here's the exams. Here's like points. And then you see here at the bottom, we total up all the points here. So I think this actually gives a pretty clear view of what to expect for each week, okay? And how they all fit into like the points that you're going to accumulate for the grade for this class, okay? So let me go back to here and very quickly go through here. So as you can see, we're doing chapter 7 and 8 this week, right? So here we are on chapter 7. I'm not going to go into that just right now in this video clip. I'm just going to kind of hit these couple of things in the front, which is kind of like a look back to last week, just so you can remember that. So you remember digitization, right? Zeros and ones, right? And in contrast to that is analog, right? So analog is kind of like this, zeros and ones are like that, right? So just kind of look at it that way. Discrete points, which are 2 points, binary, right? For digitization. It could have been some other base, like I said before, but that's just the nature of the technology and the hardware back then. It was much easier to look at things in terms of zeros and ones, binary, okay? And, you know, I got to say, like 99.9%, this is just the main thing you should remember, right? So this whole idea of the census, Herman Hollerith, and like how that essentially took a big step forward in terms of the census, where it was done by hand. It took like 8 years, right? And then doing it by by digitization, putting the holes in these punch cards, digitization. Um, that dramatically reduced it, right? Reduced it down to a year or so, okay? So remember abstraction, so it's hiding complexity, uh, details that are relevant for the understanding of how to do something, right? I gave so this one they're talking about like, well, okay, here's the cat, and then here's like the inside, right? Uh, for you to play with the cat, you don't necessarily need to know about all this stuff in here, right? Um, but I gave an example of the car, right? So you step on the brakes of the car. You don't really need to know how that's implemented. You just need to know that I step on the brakes and the car will stop, right? I'm simplifying a bit, but that's the idea, right? For some people that maybe want to like tune things, or they want to get a specific way of braking the car, or stopping the car, I should say, then they might care about the implementation, right? And then you'll go into that, right? But for the typical person, you care about it at a high level, right? Um, so here's another level of abstraction, okay? Again, the key point here is highlighted, hiding complexity, right? So you care about the high level idea, right? And you don't care about some of the underlying details for this particular use case, let's say, okay? So you might look at this, right? Depending on who you are, this might be a useful picture, right? But if you look at it maybe here, you might have like a more useful picture, right? About saying, well, okay, I need to know where I should go get something to eat, right? Where's the bus stop, something like that, uh, and you might have something like that, right? You could argue that even this is a little bit too much, but yeah, I guess maybe you need to know the streets to know to get to the bus stop, let's say. Um, so, uh, like, do you need to know that there's, foliage, or what type of roof is on the house, or whatever? Maybe, depending on your use case, right? So that's what we talk about with abstraction, right? Simplify it to whatever particular use case you're looking at, okay? Um, and then you remember we talked about algorithms, right? So I think last week we were talking about a recipe. Was it a chocolate chip cookie recipe? No, chocolate chip pizza, I think it was. Um, so the algorithms, essentially kind of like a recipe to actually do something, right? And yeah, I remember I mentioned last week also that's different from a program. A program implements the algorithms. I can describe it and say, okay, these are the steps to achieve a certain outcome, but it doesn't speak to like the actual implementation of it. Uh, and so like a computer program would be like an implementation of an algorithm, okay? Um, and here is the chapter 7. This is actually where the starting point is. And I'm going to stop this lecture here because I've already gone like 14 minutes already. So let me stop this, and I'm going to cut a new video in a second. All right, thank you.